So we've got breaking news out of Lincoln concerning Scott Frost's future at Nebraska. It's also a developing story, so we don't have final details on it, but we know that his contract has been extended and restructured. Welcome into Nebraska Cornhuskers Live. And again, this news is just coming out minute by minute by minute, not necessarily the news that many people thought would happen or some of you hope would happen, but Scott Frost with, of course, his team competitive this year and most recently competitive against Ohio State down to the last 90 seconds of the game, gets a restructured contract. Of course, we got Greg Peterson on the line from Husker Online, and he's got so much to get to with Husker Online. He'll be here for a couple minutes, and then he needs to get to that. But this is obviously huge.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how it just dropped down here, local time, 2:00 this afternoon. Trev Alberts, Nebraska's AD here, who's only been on the job for 4 months, released a statement where, Scott Frost will be coming back for a 5th season, and that these guys are, have the same outlook for Nebraska, and they share the same passion for the program and everything. And Trev Alberts got ahead of the week of a bye week when there's not much going on media-wise except for speculation on Coach Frost's job, basically, is what was going to happen all week and what's Trev Alberts going to do. So I think you see a big savvy move by Trev Alberts right now to, say, here's what we're going to do. He got together with Coach Frost and they sat down and they hammered out some issues and restructured his contract, and which means that I think when you read between the lines on kind of what happened on the restructuring deal, I think it doesn't take a genius to think that involves a full-time special teams coach, which Scott Frost has never had on his staff yet here at Nebraska. And, you point your fingers at special teams for so many blunders and mistakes and lost opportunities throughout the season when you played, 4 top 10 teams down to the wire. Something's got to change there. So that's what I'm saying. We're going to see, a full-time special teams coordinator on the staff moving forward. That being said, there's going to be more changes coming here. I can guarantee you. Stay tuned in right now to your local media or your national media, because there's a team meeting going on that I can disclose that there's a team meeting going on here in about an hour here, about 4:00 local time here in Lincoln. To actually discuss what kind of changes are being made because of this whole restructuring deal. So it's a very fluid situation going on right now. And, the big news is that Scott Frost gets a fifth year. And, it's going to be met with mixed feelings, obviously, because you're going to have those camps that are on get rid of Frost and bring back Frost. But I think the biggest thing for this university is to have 2 guys, in charge of your football and your athletics programs totally, on the same page and moving forward. And, with the kind of progress that you saw, it's not in the wins and loss column, obviously, but from a competitive standpoint, Nebraska can play with anybody, and I think you've seen statements from the Ohio State players and coaches, and we're very they were sweating it out against Nebraska. So it was even though it was a bad loss to take on Saturday, you look at it. I mean, you held your head up high. Obviously, at one point, I even, at the end of the half, when Nebraska, you kind of thought that Ohio State, here they come. They're going to start putting this thing away right away. But Nebraska responds at the end of the first half. And when the 2 teams left the field at halftime, the crowd was chanting "Go Big Red," which I haven't heard for a long time. against a team like that. So it was pretty cool to see. And I think Trev Alberts just got out in the forefront and said, here's what we're going to do, because I like the progress that I'm seeing. And there's just a few changes that we need to make. And here we go forward from here.
Yeah, like you say, they've played 4 legit top 10 teams, and all 4 games have been really close. And especially the Michigan State game, they just outplayed Michigan State. The other ones, you could say the other team outplayed them slightly. But man, yeah, Ohio State was, Ryan Day said it before the game, and then he just reconfirmed it after the game to say, we knew this team was this good, especially the defensive side. So we didn't come in here thinking, oh, we're just going to roll through. We knew it was going to be this kind of game, and it was. And until Ohio State kicked a field goal with 90 seconds left in the game, it was up in the air, and you could make a debate that, that Nebraska outplayed them in the second half. I think you could pretty clearly say that Nebraska outplayed Ohio State in the second half. So back to this contract restructuring. The first thing that hit me was, okay, maybe this is a Jim Harbaugh type situation in Michigan. They restructured his contract going into the current season, and they cut his salary down, and then he eventually changed out coaching staff, and we saw that play out. Do you think the other main reason to do this was that, you've made mention, and we talked about it on here, you're a recruiting guy, that it's not going to be a big class. It's not a huge class, but every recruiting class is important. But they pretty much know who they have for December. Could this have been made in part to just kind of stabilize that and let prospects know this is going to be your coach next year?
Not really. Just because right now with a class of kind of buried in all this is they just got to commit from a 2022 kid on Saturday, Khalil Martin out of Chicago, a rush defensive end, who was there on an official visit and pulled the trigger. But yeah, it's such a small recruiting class that they're dealing with right now, and there's only a few out of state guys. So, obviously the local guys, they're not going anywhere. I mean, these guys are all lifelong Husker fans. They're good. They're good to go. But, the out of state guys, I think they're willing to, kind of wash this class out and, build whatever they have left for slots on their class this year. Going with more experienced bodies and other guys that have played a little bit more football. And, they're not just going to, try to fill out their roster with high school kids that they have not been recruiting yet, because if you're going to see, some staff overhauls going on because of this structured contract. So, I think right now recruiting is not really the big issue with this for this class. Now moving forward, it's a completely different animal here if you're talking about that, because you've seen, if you're on the sidelines week in and week out in Lincoln, the majority of the visitors that are on the sidelines are 2023 and 2024 recruits. So that's what they've been gearing more towards is building for these future classes because of this logjam we've had, due to the COVID, which has made this a strange recruiting year for everybody. So I think this is just more of here's what we got to do moving forward. We're going to have to make some staff changes, and not just some slight staff changes. We're going to go all out, and there's going to be some different faces here moving forward here in 2022 here in the program.
It's easy to say fire Frost, move on, all those things. But as we've discussed many times, they are a different football team than what they were in 2017 and 18.
It's so crazy because he has got the kids believing in him. I mean, you're 3-6 and you're playing Ohio State a team that dominates you pretty much year in and year out, and you played them head to head, toe to toe. I mean, there was a fight that broke out in pregame. Most people around the country probably don't even know that there was a big time pregame brawl that broke out. And then Scott Frost, Ryan Day didn't even shake hands before the game. That never even happened because they cleared Ohio State off of the field and sent them into the locker room. So you've seen a culture shift with a team that believes in their head coach and believes in the vision moving forward. Unfortunately, some of these other coaches that have shared in this belief and the vision are not going to be around here to follow that through. But at least the head coach is there in place, and Trev Alberts, Scott Frost, they want the same exact thing. And if it's not Scott Frost, who else are you going to bring in at this point? Because you have seen a guy come in. And obviously, Mike Riley didn't know how to recruit Big Ten type of players. I think Bo Pelini was also a victim of that. He came into the Big Ten with a good roster. There was a Big 12 roster and competed early in the Big Ten, but they didn't really know how to recruit a Big Ten type of athlete, I think, and that was his downfall. And then obviously Mike Riley fell into the same kind of a deal where he was more of a West Coast type recruiting guy. And then Scott Frost knows what you need, but it took him a couple of years to know that because he came in here and was recruiting the same kind of guys that he was getting, right down the street, in Central Florida. He had your pick of athletic guys that can run and throw and catch, and and those are the kind of guys that made him successful at Central Florida. It takes a while to overhaul that roster of athletes that are not built to compete in a physical league like the Big Ten. And if you watch that game on Saturday with Ohio State and Nebraska, you didn't get any sense of Ohio State being the more physical team in that game whatsoever. Even if you look across their board at their offensive line, you're like, my God, those guys are monsters. Nebraska's defense played them toe to toe the whole time, and except for a wide receiver that just killed him all day long. They played him straight up. So, and that's the third wide receiver on that team. When you think about it.
Oh, yeah, he's a good one.
Oh, he's a good one, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Nebraska outrushed Ohio State in that game. Albeit neither team rushed it for much. But you just not see that gap in competition, that gap in physicality and athleticism. That gap is not there anymore. So that's what you hang your hat on, and that's why you don't want to get rid of your head coach right now, because he's built that culture back to where it hadn't been in a long, long time.
So as you mentioned, the team is meeting right now. Do you have any idea on when all this is going to be announced in terms of what the restructure contract looks like, what kind of changes are going to be made, or anything else?
Yeah, I expect staff changes to be announced here in about 45 minutes or so. So yeah, like we talked about when we jumped on the air here, that it's a revolving door right now, and people are going to find out here shortly about the changes being made and about things moving forward. And there's going to be people upset with what they find out, and there's going to be other people that are going to rejoice. I mean, that's kind of what we're here to mediate right now. And I think just the key to hold on to is that you've got a top-notch defense in the country right now with the coaching staff that's doing pretty good. So I don't expect to see much changes on the defensive side, if any. I think it all comes from the offensive side. And, you might hear some surprising names that you might not have thought would be on that list.
Okay, really the only question here, if you can sort this out from Dom Johnson, is basically what are your thoughts on the quarterback coach and the development when an injured quarterback is a better choice than a 100% healthy backup quarterback? Of course, he's speaking of Adrian Martinez and Logan Smothers.
Yeah, you know what? Mario Verduzco's always been a very intriguing and entertaining guy, and but I think obviously with what you've seen with Adrian Martinez, and it's hard to say with injuries which held it back, but it is hard to see the development that Coach Verduzco has had on his group. You haven't really got to see much. I mean, Logan Smothers hasn't had a chance to play yet. Luke McCaffrey got a chance last year, and didn't really pan out too much. And Martinez got his job back after that. But yeah, I mean, it's been 4 years of kind of a stagnant. I mean, after when you saw Adrian Martinez come in as a freshman and kind of set college football world a little bit ablaze and put him in that Heisman Trophy candidate talk early on in his career, and it's just been kind of hampered since then, and you haven't seen that kind of progression that you'd like to see, and we haven't had a look at much more than Adrian Martinez. So it's kind of the book's still out on Mario Verduzco. All I can say is this: that he's a great guy to talk to, and I would hang out with him anytime, and have a glass of wine and smoke a cigar with him, and listen to jazz music. But there's going to be heads on the chopping block, and his name's been right up there, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Mario moving on.
In connection to the quarterback position, maybe one of the biggest highlights of the game, obviously from a scoring standpoint, was the 2 long plays to Samori Toure. You've talked him up ever since he was signed as a future NFL player. They dialed up a couple plays in which he was able to, they were able to get the safety out of position and take advantage and get him freed up. And Martinez delivered the ball both times. And you just kind of wonder, why weren't they dialing up these long pass plays on occasion and taking their shots before? But it looked really good on those 2 occasions that obviously kept them in the game.
I mean, that's all about flow of the game, and obviously Samori Toure is always a big part of the game plan. And I'm assuming you probably didn't even see that today. That they today they added his name to the Blitnikoff Award today. So yeah, he's mentioned right up there in that top group of receivers now with the stable at Ohio State and David Bell at Purdue, and now you can put Samori Toure on that list too. I mean, yeah, he's a weapon, and he's had several of these moments, but you kind of wish he would have had more, just because with a lot of the way these games have kind of fallen, and Nebraska kind of sputtering around at times, and obviously, yeah. I mean, you want to always get him more involved in the game, and you see when he does get involved in the game, big things happen, and he's a heck of a wide receiver, and he's going to be playing on Sundays. You'll be seeing him up there. He'll be a pretty high draft pick coming up in April here.
There would be some kind of question there about whether we're going to see any kind of difference in the team, but the team's playing top-notch competition extremely well anyway, and now they got to face 2 more. But if anything, at least Scott Frost knows where he stands, that he's going to be at Nebraska. There are going to be some changes made. So he's going to have to obviously implement those changes and then go forward and find some replacements and all of that. But he at least knows that he doesn't have to look over his shoulder, and he can continue what he's already working on.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best thing that, a head coach can know, because I mean, my God, you can see the toll that this has taken on him. I've seen former players in the program tweet out, just being able to just see, the stress and what it does to him, and he doesn't get much time with his family, and I mean, this has been really hard on him because nobody else wants to win more than he does here. I guarantee you that. Him and Trev Alberts both, all they want is for Nebraska to win. So yeah, it's just to hear that and to know that I'm still here. All we got to do, we're so close. We're so close. He knows we're so close. It's just a few little things here and there, and oh my goodness, it's a way different record. And I think the key to this is too now that after that loss, Scott Frost is a career 500 coach. I mean, he's 34 as a head coach now, and that includes a perfect season at UCF. So for this timing and for this to move forward, I think it's great for his confidence, and now he can kind of, obviously, he's got to make some decisions on bringing in some new coaches, and knowing him, he's probably already got some guys he's been talking to for not just recently, but for a while. So yeah, he's a pretty connected guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see some other Nebraska guys that have Nebraska ties end up on this coaching staff moving forward. But I have no idea. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, it's a clear message. It's not a mixed message. It's a clear message, but it's almost two messages at the same time to say, Coach, we believe in you. We see the progress you've made. We still believe that you can take this where we want it to go. We believe in you. We want you here, but there are obviously some things not working. So we need you to address a few components here, but we're going to go forward with you. And we want to give you the vote of confidence, and then we'll take it from here.
Absolutely. And, this is something else I'll just toss in there out of the blue. But I wouldn't doubt you see maybe a kicker commit, maybe a kicker offer go out and get committed in this class. And that's not even joking around. They were even thinking about that last week. So, that's kind of just to bounce back on that recruiting question that we kind of talked about a little bit ago.
A good kicker will make a coach look so much smarter a number of times a game.
Absolutely.
When they can kick them through the uprights at whatever, pick your distance.
Yeah.
Then the coach always gets hammered when the kicker misses the kick and it was 4th and 3. You should have went for it.
Especially when all these games that you end up losing come down to one score or just barely a one-score game. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Ohio State's kickers made his kicks. Nebraska's kicker did not make his kicks except for the one. Yes.
Yep. Just the little things. But what a great atmosphere though it was too.
Yep. Yeah.
We were all pissed off actually when they announced the attendance was only 84,000. We're like, what? Where are those other 6,000 people, and what are they doing today? But it was a great atmosphere, and for the first time since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, that in my eyes that they were absolutely not intimidated by the Ohio State University, and they came to win that game, and now with what's announced here, I think that this team rallies around as their head coach, and they're going to go out for their last 2 games of the season. A determined football team, determined to just not just prove for their head coach, but to prove that they are good, and they deserve to win a couple of these games. These close competitive games. Sooner or later, one of them's going to come out in their favor.
And Greg, the other thing we found out this weekend, and we talk about Adrian Martinez's competitiveness and his toughness and all that. We talk about it all the time, but my goodness, he's played with a broken jaw since September.
Yeah, there were 2 things that we learned coming out of that post-game press conference was about Adrian Martinez. He's been playing with a broken jaw. We had no idea, so that's got to make it pretty difficult just to even function throughout the day. much less play a football game and getting beaten and battered around by a bunch of 300-pound monsters in the Big Ten. But also, you got to add JoJo Domann onto that list too. JoJo's been playing with a badly injured hand, probably done. You've probably seen the last of JoJo Domann in a Nebraska uniform. Probably shouldn't even played against Ohio State. His whole family was here to watch, and he didn't. He was going to leave it all out on the field, and he came out and played a hell of a game, had an interception, and I wouldn't even put it past him to. He's got to get surgery, but I wouldn't put it past JoJo to bypass surgery and play 2 more games in a Nebraska uniform. But he's proven so much that he's improved his stock in the NFL draft so much with his performance this year, and you're going to look at him too. He's going to help out somebody on Sundays coming up next year, and you wouldn't want him to jeopardize any of that just to play 2 more games for his beloved team.
I don't know how many defenses in the nation would have or will hold that offense down to 23 points.
Right. The only other team that did was Oregon.
They scored 28. They had 600-plus yards of offense in that game against Oregon. They shot themselves in the foot, and they somewhat shot themselves in the foot, but I thought it was more Nebraska making plays in the red zone. They stopped them on a 4th down. They had a pick early in the game in the red zone, forced them into 3 field goals in the red zone.
Yeah, that was JoJo's pick down there, yeah. It was kind of strange because, Ohio State's, they're a team that lives on big plays. They're not a team that usually, puts together, 10, 12 play drives to shorten the game on you. But Nebraska's defense played them tough. If it wasn't for a lot of dink and dunks that were, 12, 11, 12 yarders that would turn into a 15 or a 20 yarders. There was the one play, the 75-yard touchdown. Other than that, no, Nebraska, kept them in front of them and played them straight up, nose to nose, and forced Ohio State to grind it out. Nebraska had their chances. They really did. And it was actually, like I said, it was you didn't walk away from that. You walked away, you were upset because, okay, yeah, it's 3-7, no bowl game again, but you still have to think that, you know what, they played pretty damn good. And I hadn't seen Ohio State flounder like that. Not to say they floundered, but more frustrated that they couldn't do everything they wanted to do.
Nebraska had a drive in that game. We mentioned the 2 enormous plays obviously to Samori Toure for the touchdowns, but then they had a drive that they really needed to finish off in the 4th quarter where it was a beautiful drive. They didn't have any big plays in the drive, but it was just a methodical drive. Every play was executed. They kept getting first downs. They got it inside the 15 or 20. Then actually Adrian missed the tight end. Anyway, it was a difficult throw. He was thrown against his body, but he missed the tight end.
Yeah.
And was it Austin Allen? Yeah, he missed him. They had to kick the field goal, and of course that was the miss, and that really hurt because it was a beautiful drive.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you had the momentum going in there, then boom, you miss a chip shot field goal. And it's like, oh, here we go again. And, you kind of, you force your hand to, have to start playing fast after that because you did, you had a nice drive that, kept Ohio State's defense on the field. And, he had the momentum. And then air gets let out of the stadium. And, it's just, and then, it comes down to some other calls where it gets exaggerated because it makes it, look like, the officiating is always against Nebraska. We go back 20 years saying that, but those just stand out then when there is a poor call. And, it just makes things fester after that. You know how it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Greg, if you need to take off, I'm going to stay on here.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have stayed on this long, but
I appreciate it.
We have so much to cover, and everybody stay tuned. There's more breaking news will be coming out here shortly, and I'm sure we'll get together here again sometime this week, and we can go over all the big changes and
Yeah, let's do that.
big picture things moving forward.
You stay in touch. You let me know when you can get freed up, and we'll get back together, and we'll do another live later this week.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
I know you're still hustling. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see what comes out.
I thought I could go on vacation this week, but I guess not, huh?
Not this week.
No.
I guess it's got to wait till January, I guess. I don't know. All right, Greg. Thanks a lot, man. Always appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yep, you too.
It's our guy, Greg Peterson, Husker Online. He's got a lot of work to do for Husker Online. So he's going to head on out. I'm going to hang around. I'm going to run it through the live chat here.
All right, we're out.
And I will take any kind of comments or questions. And again, as Greg just mentioned, we will get back together as soon as these coaching changes are announced that we believe are going to transpire. Restructured contract. What do we know about that right now? Could it be of the Jim Harbaugh variety, meaning, okay, coach, we believe in you. We want you to stay. We believe you're headed in the right direction in some areas, but in other areas, you need to change. You have not met the standards. Therefore, we're paying you too much money. We're going to restructure the contract. That's a nice way of putting we're slicing your salary. I don't know that that's going to happen. I would not be surprised if that is the case. If Nebraska is possibly taking a cue from Michigan, you can have the right guy in play or believe he's the right guy, but also say you're not meeting the standards. 4-8, 5-7. What has it been? It's been 5-7, 4-8. No, 4-8, 4-8, 5-7, 3-5. 3-7. It all adds up to a mess, is what it adds up to. Not even close to a standard for anybody in the Big Ten. Practically nobody would, even the likes of Illinois and Rutgers, eventually would fire a coach who's losing 65 to 70% of his games. That wouldn't even be tolerated. Lovie Smith had that kind of record. He got fired. Others would as well. So not just a Nebraska standard, that's just kind of a basic college football standard that he's not meeting, winning. I think it's 15-27 now. 15-27 is about 35% of your games. Winning 35% in the Big Ten, it's got to be atrocious compared to that, because obviously they're winning against the group of five in the FCS most of the time. So you can look at the improvement, the progress, the development of the program, the weight, the strength and conditioning program, all that, and say, okay, we're competing better on the field, but the results are substandard. Therefore, the restructured contract means you're not meeting standard. We're paying you too much money. We're going to pay you less money. So it could be a Jim Harbaugh type of restructured contract that we find out about soon. And also, again, possible coaching staff changes. It seems as though Greg's pretty confident those will be in the works. I would say the same thing. We saw it today with Dan Mullen in Florida. He still has a job. It will remain to be seen based on Florida's performance against Missouri and Florida State to close out the season if Dan Mullen will still have a job. But as of right now, he was forced to make changes. Had to fire the defensive coordinator and the offensive line coach at Florida. This could be much of the same here with Scott Frost. All right. Matthew says, great move by the university. Structure contract and coaching changes means that the win-loss record so far is not acceptable at Nebraska, but also not ignoring the clear progress made in competitiveness. Boomer believes that Frost will turn it around next year. If he doesn't, then he's gone. This program, meaning Trev Alberts, needs to have a clear thought process and standard as to what is acceptable next year. So really, now that they've restructured the contract and have announced that he will be back for 22, Is it important what happens the final 2 games of the season? Sure, they want to see a competitive team against Wisconsin and Iowa, but it really doesn't matter. He's going to be back in 22. So what does 22 need to look like? There have been too many moral victories, too much talk about development and progress. That is all true. But as Alan states right there, if I'm running the show, I put a standard out there. And whether I communicate that to Scott Frost or not, probably not. I just know in my brain, this has to be, I have to see the progress turn into and transfer into results. And I would have a hardline number in my head that could be massaged based on circumstances, injuries, really close, excruciating losses. And I know that they've suffered those and you don't want to hear about and witness more of those. But think about it, Nebraska fans. Did you see a team, let's say in 2016, that went 9-4, that was not anywhere close to a 9-4 football team in terms of other 9-4 teams that we see nationally ranked? No, they lost by 59 points to Ohio State. They had a soft, fluffy, easy schedule to start out. They racked up a bunch of smoke and mirror type wins, and they showed that they're not a 9-4 team. So I would evaluate the level of play as well, in addition to the record. But I would be right in that. I think that between Allen and Sid Irish, I think that is very reasonable. Got to go 7-5, and that's 7-5. Let's look at the schedule. So this is, for me, what this 7-5 needs to look like. Okay, look at the out-of-conference games. Oklahoma at home, Georgia Southern, North Dakota. Okay, you win 2 or 3. The obvious loss is to Oklahoma, but you play well. Okay, 2-1 outside the conference. Okay, 5-4 in the Big Ten. Got to play everyone in the West. That includes some really tough teams, but not elite, great power teams. It's not Alabama. It's not Ohio State. It's Wisconsin. It's Minnesota. It's Purdue. It's those teams that they need to start beating. Okay, they've got everyone in division, of course, and then out of division, they've got Rutgers on the road, Indiana, Michigan on the road. That's a pretty light non-division schedule right there. They don't have to play Ohio State. They don't have to play Michigan State. They don't play Penn State. They do play Michigan on the road, but Rutgers and Indiana. So it's not a difficult, brutal Big Ten schedule as much as it is and has been this year. So that 7-5 for me would also include, it would be nice to beat somebody good. Beat Wisconsin, beat Oklahoma, beat Iowa, beat somebody, beat Michigan. Win one of those games. At least one really good win. And also, now this doesn't seem possible because they haven't been blown out this season, but look back the last few years. Don't revert to getting blown out in some of these games. Not that they can't get blown out in any game the entire season. I would make that the standard, but they can't routinely or multiple times get blown out. Like for me, if they go 7-5 and they get the 7 wins against Northwestern, North Dakota, Georgia Southern, Rutgers, Indiana, Purdue, and Illinois, if those are the 7 wins and they lose like chalk to Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Oklahoma, and they get blown out like 3 times, then maybe 7-5 or 6-6 isn't good enough for me. Maybe it's like, okay, yeah, you went 6-6. We went to a bowl game, but we got killed in the bowl game. We got killed by a number of teams that we were playing with and playing competitively against before. So the record is important for me, but it's also about being competitive against top-notch competition and beat somebody. Beat somebody. Finally beat a Wisconsin. Beat an Iowa. Beat a Michigan. Beat an Oklahoma. Somebody. Yes, Scott Frost has by far a worse record than Mike Riley. I believe Mike Riley was 19-19, and Scott Frost, I think, is 15-27. Daniel says, excuses, excuses. They can't beat the crappy teams either. Nebraska is horrible. Okay, they're not horrible. Daniel, if you watch college football, you see horrible teams every week. Rutgers started off not horrible, but now they're reverting to typical Rutgers. They're horrible. Kansas is horrible. There's a few teams in the ACC. They're pretty bad. Vanderbilt's obviously horrible. Yeah, their record's horrible. The record is horrible. They're going to go 4-8 at best. That's horrible. Preston, exactly. The schedule next season is easier. And we could easily be 7-5 or better this year. I just hope we get at least one really good quality win next year. They don't play Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, somebody like that. One. Actually, they've got 5 games like that. I would put Oklahoma, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa in a certain class. I'm not saying they're all the same, but they're in a certain class. Minnesota's not really there, but they would be in the next in line. Minnesota, Purdue. Win one game like that. Scott Frost, when we were looking at it a couple of weeks ago, I made the comment to Greg. I said, when are they going to beat somebody good? And I went through Scott Frost's tenure at Nebraska. The best team that Nebraska's beaten, the only team that they've beaten in the Big Ten that's over 500, one team in 4 years. The first year, they beat Minnesota. And I'll even put a disclaimer, a qualifier on that win against Minnesota, because Minnesota started the season 2-6. And that's when Nebraska caught them at 2-6. That Minnesota team won its last 5 games, beat teams like Wisconsin. They basically fired their defensive coordinator, Rob Smith. They got so much better. They were a different team the last month of the season. They beat Northwestern. They beat Wisconsin. They won a bowl game against Georgia Tech. They were 7-6. So that was the team Nebraska beat that had a winning record in the Big Ten. The only one. And even that Minnesota team was 3-6 in the Big Ten. Nebraska has not beaten a good team in forever. Let's see here. When's the last time Nebraska beat a ranked team? I think they've lost like 16 consecutive games against ranked teams. So this year's wins, Northwestern, Fordham, Buffalo. So as much as they are playing so much better and playing close, those are the 3 wins this year. Fordham, Buffalo, and Northwestern. Northwestern's the worst team in the Big Ten. In 2020, they beat a Penn State team that's the most talented team they've beaten in a long time. But of course, we know what happened to Penn State last year. They went 4-5. So Nebraska beat Penn State. So how do you rate that win? It's kind of difficult against a 4-5 team. They beat Purdue, who was 2-4. They beat Rutgers 3-6. Year before, 2019, they beat South Alabama 2-10. They beat Northern Illinois 5-7. They beat Illinois 6-7. They beat Northwestern 3-9. They beat Maryland 3-9. They lost to a 4-8 Purdue team in 2019. They lost to a 5-7 Colorado team. 5-7 in the Pac-12. Mel Tucker. 2018. Who they beat? That Minnesota win I just talked about. Again, nice win against a team that eventually was good, but they got a different Minnesota team. So that was the year Scott Frost took over, of course, 0-6. Then they played much better down the stretch. They beat Bethune-Cookman, Minnesota, Illinois, 4-8, Michigan State, 7-6. So either the Michigan State or the Minnesota teams, those were the two best teams, 7-6. So those are Scott Frost's best wins. 2 7-6 teams in the Big Ten, Michigan State, Minnesota. By far, those are the best wins. Mike Riley beat a 7-6 Purdue team. That was the Hail Mary, right? The 25-24 game. That was one of the Hail Mary plays. That's by far his best win, his last season. The 2016 team, the team we talked about, the smoke and mirrors 7-0 team that then got trounced down the stretch. You know, they beat a 7-6 Northwestern team. They beat a Minnesota team that went 9-4 in 2016. That Minnesota team won the Holiday Bowl. So that's the last team they beat that had a good record. 2016. They beat Minnesota 9-4. That's the last team they beat that was, I don't think they finished fringe ranked that year. The last time they beat a really good team. Oh, the Michigan State game, 2015. Yeah, the big upset against Michigan State, the team that went to the playoffs. Yeah. Good discussion here. Appreciate everybody being here. And we wanted to get here to jump online and talk about the restructured contract as much as we can at this point. It has yet to be announced exactly what that means, what it looks like. And we are anticipating staff changes. Probably special teams, offensive side of the ball. Yeah. All right. Don't know if we have any more to discuss right now. I'm not seeing too much in the live chat. As we look at Wisconsin and Iowa, certainly Iowa is scuffling. Do they have a great defense? They do. They still have a great defense. Really, nobody's doing much against them offensively, but they're the worst offense in the Big Ten. They just are. I don't care what the yardage totals say or the points. They're the worst offense in the Big Ten. They either legitimately replaced Spencer Petras at quarterback because of injury, or they made an excuse for him, and Alex Padilla took over against Northwestern. Think about what Nebraska did against Northwestern. Iowa hung on 17-12. They had to have an interception in the end zone in that game. 17-12 against Northwestern. Nebraska can beat Iowa. Iowa's toss-up game, but they can win that game. I believe, is that game at home? I believe that game's at Nebraska. So that did not look like a winnable game a month ago, but Nebraska, actually, I'm going to say, should beat Iowa. They're playing better football than Iowa is, the Iowa team we've seen over the last 3 to 4 games. Wisconsin, they've kicked it into gear. Wisconsin has kicked it into gear. And Wisconsin kicked Iowa's teeth in. That game was not close. They beat them up. They just mauled them defensively. Wisconsin's, they are showing finally at the end of the season here, they're a different team. They're the team in the division. They beat Purdue by 3 scores, and everybody else is showing themselves vulnerable. Wisconsin has pulled it together. They beat Iowa by 20. They beat Purdue by 17. They're good. Are they a great team? No. They're still not prolific passing the ball. They won't be. That's not who they are. But they're the best team in the West. They just are. So they are not. I do not see them losing to Nebraska with a Big Ten Western Division championship on the line. Iowa, though, again, that could be the win. Scott Frost, that would be the best win he would have in his what will be 44-game career at that point. Appreciate everybody being here. Please subscribe to the channel. You can contribute on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just search Mark Rogers TV. We've got an Amazon link in the description section. So please, when you do your holiday shopping, we know that most of you shop on Amazon. Please use the link in the description section. And folks, I will also let you know that if you're frustrated by watching and losing Nebraska football, you might as well at least take advantage of losing Nebraska football with my picks. 13-8 against the spread last weekend at 120-77. Do the math. Well over 60% against the spread for the season, and it's been consistent week to week to week to week. 13-8 last week, and we get a 12-pack of picks from Greg and also 20 media members that we post on Patreon as well. So join us there. It's $5 a month, $5 a month. You get my picks, and then we've got a lot of great stuff that's that we're putting together in store for the postseason, for the off season, I should say. Right here at the Voice of College Football. So once again, Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV, or go to the link in the description section below. Also, Amazon. You got to understand, being in the position that I'm in, trying to grow these channels, that this seems like the easiest thing in the world. That most of you shop Amazon, or I'd say half of you. Stats say that half of the country, actually it's more than half the country, because in any given month, it's half of Americans shop on Amazon. Therefore, if you do, just use the link that we provide. It's the same shopping experience, doesn't cost you a penny. Grab the link in the description section and please use it when you shop this Christmas or anytime. Great to have everyone here. We will see all of you soon here at the Voice of College Football. And again, hit that bell for the notifications to know when we go live, because we're going to come back live with Greg to run down the restructured contract, the staff changes, and of course, it's a bye week. Wisconsin and Iowa coming up to conclude the season. Right here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you next time. We've got a live show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. Call-in show to wrap up Week 10, look ahead to Week 11, and answer all your calls and questions at the Voice of College Football. That's over on the main channel, 7 Eastern tonight. See you then.